Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Learner's Podcast. Today we are going to have the fourth session on the International Finance and Economics. For Dr. Tajani, I'm just going to play the presentation. So are you there, sir? Are you ready?
Yes, of course, Prof. I'm ready. Thank you for having me.
I'm just playing the slides.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us. I welcome all the participants for our fourth session. Today on class, we are going to look at the, we discussed in our previous class, we discussed about the differences and similarities of Islamic banking, where we did mention a lot of issues related to it. And I do hope that all of us are aware of in and out of the differences and the line demarcation between the two. We also talked about the intermediaries role of Islamic bank, where we say there are sources of liquidity and also how to use the fund being generated based on the Islamic financial institution. We did mention that there is an equity deposit from bank, deposit from customers and Islamic structural securities such as Cook. And we says how are they using it? They are using it based on participatory contract, non-participatory contract, and service-based contract. But today's class, we are going to look at the banking operation overview. Prof, can we go to the next slide? The first question that will come to our mind, next slide, please.
Yes.
The first question that will come to our mind, I can see that the participants are complaining that they are not hearing me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. So, banking operation overview. When we talk about the banking operation overview, we are referring to how the banks operates. And we are also discussing about how the bank sources the fund. What are the many sources of fund and utilization of fund for an Islamic bank? These are the fundamental questions that will come to our mind. Okay, let us first of all look at the sources of fund. Sources of fund, under sources of fund, there are various ways the Islamic financial institution generate fund based on paid-up capital and reserves, based on Islamic debt instrument, which we refer to SCOOC, based on interbanking borrowing and deposit investment account. These are the main areas that the Islamic financial institution generate or sources fund. How about the utilization? When we look at it, the utilization is all about asset investment. After you generated a fund, for instance, if you are to invest your money, after getting the money into your hand, you need to look at a way of investment. How do you want to invest this money? So the investment, they used to incorporate short-term financing. They used to put under short-term investment, they have salam, they have murabaha, they have tawaruk, they have hawala, they have ijara, istisna, mudaraba, musharaka, Islamic trade finance, and Islamic retail finance. All these are maxis of financial product that Islamic financial institutions produced or product they use in order to invest money or to invest their fund generated. Okay, let us look at the sources of fund. The major part of Islamic bank operation fund is derived from the different categories of investment account designed based on Islamic principles. As I've been explaining, or I've been previously explained, that if Islamic bank fund has to be something relevant and also to be Sharia compliant, which operates or designed based on Islamic principles. If you find any fund that contradicts such principle, it means the fund is not in accordance with with Islamic principles. Amongst, okay, Prof?
Yeah, I'm just doing it.
Yes, click. Okay, among the various sources of fund available to Islamic bank, the main ones are as follow, okay? We have number one, paid up capital and reserve equity. When we talk about the pay up capital and reserve equity, it means we are referring to the capital contributed by shareholders of the Islamic bank, whereas reserve are accumulated through the net profit retained by the bank after distributing the dividend. Okay, the Islamic Bank received the capital reserve from their shareholders. We have there is a line demarcation between shareholders and stakeholders. Shareholders are the initial people that developed or contributed capital in order to make the Islamic financial institution or any financial organization works. So maybe 10 people, 12 people, or 30 people contributed their minimum reserve capital. When we say reserve capital, is what the central bank of that particular country stipulated. Before you operate a financial institution, you need to have a stipulated amount on ground so that the license will be issued to you. So in a Nigerian scenario, for instance, you have to have a minimum of 25 billion naira before you've been given a license to operate in Islamic financial institution. So how do you, or any conventional financial institution, so how did you get that money? You get that money through contributions amongst those who are potentially think they will be the shareholders of that company. So in this scenario, the shareholders has to have, or they have to have this certain amount of money. And also, what are they receiving? Are they receiving profit? No, it's not profit. Their profit is being called dividend. So at the end of the day, they will be receiving dividend with their being a shareholder of that particular institution. Prof, next. And also, like I've said, the bank, the central bank of a country where the Islamic bank is incorporated, is the one to determine the amount of capital to be maintained. As I mentioned, I said the central banks, they are the one issuing exactly amount being needed for those shareholders to put in place before the license is being given to them. So in Nigerian scenario, I've already said it, when the Sunusi, Lamido Sunusi came on board, he developed or he issued out guidelines that the financial institution will not be allowed to operate unless it has a capital reserve of 25 billion naira. Prof, next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. Let's look at, again, the sources of fund. Also, we have Islamic debt insurance. The Islamic debt instrument, the Islamic debt instrument is the kind of instrument to have an option in terms of raising capital. Such instrument, we have something called sukuk. So it's also a debt insurance instrument. The sukuk is a scenario whereby the investors have a mind of investing their money. So by having such mind in investing money, they will need a SPV. When we are referring to SPV is special purpose vehicle. They may issue out a sukuk to raise up a capital so that they can maintain the services of that particular institution and to be paid back the investors their money with their profit attached to it. That one we call it sukuk.
So is it the same slide? Is it the slide you are?
No, it's not. It's the next slide, Prof.
After this, yeah, that's what I am asking.
Yes. So in that one, we call it sukuk. We call it sukuk. I think Nigerian people or Nigerian participants will bear with me that if they look at everywhere around Nigerian cities nowadays or Nigerian highways, they see the signpost of sukuk. The signpost of sukuk, where the government generated a lot of money from its citizens in order to invest in the sukuk and later on to be paid the citizen within a stipulated period of time. So we are going to detailize the sukuk details, how the sukuk operates and other relevant issues. But now we are trying to give the ways that Islamic financial institutions source its fund. So through sukuk, they also source their fund through sukuk. And next thing is interbanking borrowing. When we talk about the interbanking borrowing, it means it's the kind of borrowing that you are trying to avoid a liquidity risk. As financial institution that have the customer deposited his money into that financial institution, but when he comes to withdraw the money, he finds out that the money is no longer there. the customer would develop what? He would develop doubt on that particular financial institution. So the interbanking borrowing, the banking are using such method in order to cover such instances. When I developed when I developed doubt on my particular financial institution I'm operating with them, I may even think of withdrawing my entire fund from that particular institution. So, but because of that, they try to maintain and also utilize try to maintain how to source the fund. If they found themselves on that scenario, they now develop something called interbanking borrowing. That is being given, the money is being borrowed from other banking in order to maintain the system. So how financial institutions generate money from this? Yes, by giving out a money to other financial institution, it means it has to have some minimum, some stipulated percentage to be paid back to the capital, to pay back to the institution that money was borrowed from. So that's why that maybe now somebody may start thinking, okay, if that's the case, I lent out the money to a financial institution and now I'm receiving the money back with plus. That one is called interest, which I agree with you, that one is interest, but under Islamic financial institution, they have another way of maintaining that by developing another way of interbanking borrowing based on mudaraba, musharaka, commodity, and wakala. So this is the interbanking borrowing. In this scenario, the Islamic banking system also generate or sources a fund from such institution. Next slide, please, Prof. Next slide, please. Okay. Another sources of fund, we have deposit, investment, and current account. We talked about the deposit, investment, current account, and current account. We says deposit, investment, and current account, they operate the same as conventional institution because they are the same method, the same mode of operation. It is the most significant source of fund in Islamic bank. That is deposit, investment, and current account. It is like a conventional bank, the responsibility of the bank and have to be returned to the depositor. In this scenario, it means if you deposited your money, what is being required from the financial institution, more especially in the current account, once you deposited your money, you are expected to withdraw exact amount being deposited. So in this scenario, conventional banking and Islamic banking, they are in the same page in terms of depositing and also operating current account. Once you are operating depositing account and current account, what you deposited exactly is what you are going to have it back. An investment account holder is a participant in the business of the bank. So, and also liable to share profit as well as losses. In this scenario, an investment account holder, you put his money into that particular business account, and the money is being utilized or worked or been give it out for profit making. In the process of making profit, they made a loss. That loss has to be distributed accordingly between the business owner and also the capital owner. But when they make a profit, the profit is being proportionally pre-agreed ratio to be shared amongst them. So in this scenario, it's clearly known as we've been discussing on it. It is equivalent to conventional banking current account. When we come to the issue of current account is also seen the same as conventional current account. What you deposited, exactly what you are going to take it back. Those current accounts are considered as a loan, and in Islamic bank is bound to return the full amount on demand with no return on profit payable. So current account, they operate it based on loan, but loan under Qardul Hasan. We have a maxis called Qardul Hasan. It means you are issuing a loan to a bank. By depositing your money into current account, it means you are giving a bank loan. for the bank to make use of it. When you come looking for your money or you wanted to withdraw your money, exact amount being given to bank, the bank will take it back to you, or the bank will refund it back to you. So it means they will use your current account. They can invest the current account to get the profit for themselves. But you are not to have a single kobo on that profit because you deposited into current account, and the current account is being operating based on Qardul Hasan. And the last part of this is the relationship here is based on Qardul Hasan. Yes, like I've said, or wadia, safekeeping. So the purpose of your keeping your money into current account is only in what? To give out or to deposit your money into that account in order to make your account safer. Next slide, please. So in this slide, yes, it's generally referred to as profit-sharing investment account. It is generally referred to as a profit-sharing investment account. So, okay, what we discuss. Yes, somebody is just interrupting. Please, can you mute your mic? Sorry. Sources of fund. If you look at what we have recently or what we have vividly discussed, you can see we discussed nearly 4 things. Number one, we discussed about the equity. The equity, we did mention that the equity is what we call paid up capital and reserve. So we discuss it and we have stated what is relevant to it. This onogram also shows the debt instrument. Debt instrument we also said is a part of how Islamic bank generate or source their fund. Number 3, we did mention that the deposit investment facility is part of what Islamic bank also generate their source of fund. And we talked about the interbanking facilities where the bankings are receiving and giving out money between themselves. But under deposit investment, we talked about wadia and Qardul Hasan. When you deposited your money, it means you are depositing under wadia. Wadia, it means under Qardul Hasan, safekeeping or Qardul Hasan, or you are giving a bank a loan without collecting any interest or profit attached to it when paying back. And we talked about the profit sharing investment. So if you are to invest in such a deposit or investment facility, you are expecting a profit to be paid you back. And and also if you are to look at the special mudaraba account. That is the part of investment also that we are going to discuss later on in our subsequent classes or subsequent sessions. So when we look at the interbanking facilities, look at down it, there is interbanking facilities in a conventional system, they call it labor. There is interest, that is the stipulated interest rate of being paying it back after collecting the money, they call it labor. But here, they are calling it interbanking borrowing. There are a alternative of musharaka mudaraba. And there are an alternative of wakala and commodity murabaha. We are going to see how those things works in when we come to the issue of interbanking facilities in details. Okay, next slide, Professor. So, after understanding or looking into the issue of sources of fund, you have sources of fund and the fund now is available. Now you are to think of how to utilize the fund, how to invest the fund. Islamic Bank have developed several Sharia compliance products to mobilize the fund deposited with them. So Islamic Bank, what they used to do is after depositing your money, they are to take the money into a Sharia compliance product activities so that the money will generate a revenue. That revenue will call it profit, and the profit will be shared accordingly as predetermined. Predetermined, we are saying, is not predetermined rate. We are talking about the predetermined ratio or percentage. If we said percentage, we are referring to whatever amount being getting 40 and 30 or 20 and 50% and 70% will be shared accordingly. So in this scenario, the Islamic bank, now they would think of how to utilize the fund. Maybe somebody may say, I deposited my money and I do not ask the Islamic bank to invest it. Why are they investing my money? Yes, the problem we are experiencing is most of us are not reading the terms and conditions form. When they give the form to you, you just move ahead and fill it. You don't care about the long note being given to you. But if you are to read the notes being issued it to you, you can see where the Islamic bank or where the banking are being urging you to work with your money in order to generate profit to them. So, broadly speaking, area where the Islamic bank are most active are trade and commodity financing, property financing, and leasing. So the Islamic bank, they have some scenarios, they have some activities to invest your money based on trade, based on commodity financing, based on financing property or leasing the money out. Leasing the property being financed by the Islamic financial institution to generate profit. Beside the range of equity, trade financing, and lending operation, free paid retail services that do not include interest payment includes. There are a lot of activities that do not include interest rate or interest in paying. Include fund transfer. You know, when you do the fund transfer, now you are transferring your fund from one place to another. They are rendering service to you. So this rendering service, it means they may require you to pay your what? To pay the service fund. So that one is different. The trade financing facilities also travelers check and other securities, safekeeping, investment management, and advices and other normal modern banking services. All these banking retails, something like ATM, something like this thing. That one is personal financial institution property that renders to you, that needs you to pay him for his services, for her services. So by doing that, you are compensating them of rendering a services to you. That one, we do not consider it as an interest. I hope you get the point clear. Next slide, Prof. Next slide, please. So in doing that, we have some important issue to look at it and even to consider, which is we have how to utilize the fund. Previously, we talked about the source, and now we are going to see how to utilize the fund. If we look at the diagram clearly, we see there is two areas or two mode and non-participatory mode sell or rents base. So in these two parts, your capital or your money deposited into financial institution is being utilized. Let us look at the issue related to participatory mode, which is mudaraba. If you look at it, under it you see mudaraba and musharaka. So when you look at the non-participatory mode, you see murabaha, tawaruk, salam, istisna, and ijara. But let us discuss on the participatory mode, which our subsequent class, the notes and also the slides will come on. But now let us just give a brief definition and explanation on these various maxes. Number one, mudaraba. Mudaraba implies a contract between two parties that financier and the manager are coming to agree on a common contract says. What I'm referring to a common, it means it has to be agreed between the financier and the manager. The financier entrusts the money to the manager, and profit generated will be divided based on the pre-agreed ratio. In this scenario, when the capital owner agreed to issue out a capital to a manager to manage the capital, it means two of them, one capital owner contributed capital, and the second part of the contract, the manager as an expert invested his expertise. So there is a partnership here. That's why we say participatory modes. So based on that, we have to have a common ratio pre-agreed between the parties. For instance, okay, now we invested this money, and at the end of the day, we have something like 10,000 naira on it. So we don't know actually what we are going to earn at the end of the day, but we got 10,000 naira. So how 10,000 naira would be shared? Initially, we have pre-agreed ratio. It means whenever we have at the end of the day, we are going to share it 60-40. So you as a capital owner, you take 60 because you are the one that provide the capital. And the expert do not provide a single kobo from that investment. He just give out his expertise. So in this scenario, you can give, or you can have something like what? 40%. So if you add 40 to 60, is 100%. So whatever you get it as a profit at the end of the day, you have the pre-agreed ratio. So that ratio will suit your own needs. The same thing when we look at the musharaka. Musharaka is a kind of agreement that two common parties comes together and contribute a capital, and both of them are involved in investment. So they contributed their capital and also contributed their expertise. So at the end of the day, whatever you get as a profit, it will be shared equally. That is musharaka. This mode of operation, we call it participatory modes, PLS, profit and loss sharing. So in the scenario whereby you encountered a loss, what will happen? So when you encounter a loss, the loss will be shared accordingly. Between the capital owner and the expert, or between the both parties that contributed their money to invest in that particular investment. Okay, let us look at the non-participatory mode. Sorry, you can see that I'm just moving so fast because we are trying to avoid any technical issues. So let us look at the non-participatory mode, which is murabaha. Murabaha, it is a sale of a commodity at a price which includes a stated profit to both the vendor and the purchaser, and a cost plus profit contract. In this scenario, a party or a seller of a commodity, somebody that he has his own asset under his domain, he's selling the asset out to those in need of that asset. For instance, he bought the asset at the rate of 100 naira, and he wanted to sell the asset at the rate of 150. So that asset, he purchased the asset from a company, and now he's trying to sell it out. So he has the means of adding any amount he wants, providedly that amount is not tripling or doubling the initial amount, but the initial amount that was used to buy the item with it. More especially, some of the scholars are saying this, but majority of the scholars moves that they have no reason of stipulating the amount of profit somebody can get on a contract. So once, if you purchase thing, you have a capacity, you have an ability and capability of selling it out at any price you want, that one is not a problem. So we are going to discuss murabaha in details. I just highlighted this in order to understand the common concept and idea of murabaha. What of tawaruk? Tawaruk, it is used by Islamic Bank as a short-term financing. It is a kind of product used to cover the client's need of cash through the mechanism of trade. This tawaruk is become an issue. Some of the scholars totally disagree with it and said it's not supposed to be operated by Islamic Bank. But in other way, if you look at it, some scholars are having some argument by saying if somebody need a cash and Islamic Bank is not giving out a cash, like all of us knows. So what are you going to do? Yes, first of all, you need to apply for an asset. You applied and the Islamic Bank issue an asset to you. What next? You are to take the asset and look for somebody outside the financial institution to sell the asset to them in order to have a cash and make use of cash. That one is allowed. So, but a lot of people are finding it very difficult. For instance, now you collected a computer from the Islamic Bank. You want to take it out and sell it in order to have a cash. Maybe if somebody sees you moving around with the computer because he knows that you are not the dealer of computer, what will happen? The person will start asking you to sell it in a lowest price. So what will happen is for you to assign a bank, financial institution, to be a what? Wakala, to be an agent to you, so that you will sell the property to you and bring your money back to you. That one will be discussed also in details when we come to the issue of tawaru. And we have salam. Salam is a kind of, is a mode of buying, a buyer pays in advance for a specific or specified quantity and quality of a commodity deliverable on a specific date on an agreed spot price. And that commodity has to be agricultural purchase, for instance. For instance, now you want to promote a farming, but people don't have a capital in their hand. You can just give the money to them to go and do it. But at the end of the day, they will bring the product with the stipulated amount and everything that is related to that contract as you stated. So, you know, this one, you cannot consider it as a riba. If you look at it in a conventional way, we call it forward contract. But here it's been allowed because you want to produce or you want to promote the agriculture. What of istisna? Istisna is a kind of activities or transaction that you paid in advance. Maybe you have seen a product from one institution that they produce such product. So you have to pay them to pay the product in advance. Please, when this product comes out, you want the product to be served with the product. So please, here is your money. You deposited it. That one also, there is not harm in it. It's also allowed. What of ijara? Ijara, it is a rental agreement in which the lessor, that is the Islamic bank, give the asset to the lessee, which is a customer, for a usage and charge regular rental fee at the end of the year or month or any stipulated date being agreed between you. So ijara is to rent services or to have a services from someone and pay the person at the end of the day, or to collect money from the financial institution and pay, to collect rent from the financial institution and pay them at the end of the day. All these are the kind of transaction that we are going to detailize it in our subsequent class. So lastly, like I've said, we have a ijara, which is based on a rental agreement in which the lessor, Islamic bank, give the asset to the lessee customer for usage and charge regular rent for it. So that one, it has to have some temporary transfer, use, fraud ownership to a customer. So the customer will have the temporary ownership of that particular house or what he collected from the Islamic financial institution for the period of a year or less than that. Depends on the agreement and how the agreement is being reached. So these are the fundamental areas, or these are the major areas of Islamic financial institution, how Islamic financial institution utilize their fund under participatory and non-participatory product, which there are a lot of or more products are coming on board. But at least if you understand these fundamentals, it becomes so important and significant to you, and also whatever comes after this, they are subject to all these things. We are going to talk about them in details in our subsequent classes. By God's grace, we are going to see Mudaraba, Musharaka, Tawaruk, and Salam, Istisna, Ijara in details. And before then, I say thank you for giving me your attention, and I think you find it useful. Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khair. And Q&A session now is open. If you have any question, anything related to, you can go ahead and ask. Thank you.
Yes, this
Prof, over to you.
Afaf.
Yes. So Afaf, go ahead. Afaf, go ahead. I'm listening. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, I think the network is not good from where he.
Yeah, no problem. Next one is the Madhu Kime.
Okay, Madhu Kime, go ahead. Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, you made mention on that tawaruk.
Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
You say when the when financial institution give commodity as a loan. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. So financial, sorry,
Sir,
can you repeat
so when
your
someone
question?
I say my questions are under tawaruk.
Yes.
So when someone borrow commodity from financial institution, you say he take it outside the financial institution to sell it. So does that mean that it's not allowed to sell to financial institution at the same time? Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
that's exactly what I'm trying to explain it. Thank you for having for asking such wonderful question. Tawaruk initially they operate based on murabaha, but why is being called tawaruk is to sell the product being collected from financial institution outside to someone else, so that money collected from that particular individual may use to you, or you can utilize it in your personal. For instance, you have somebody in the hospital, or you have an issue related to your financial needs. So, and you don't know how to get that money. You go to Islamic bank where your account is there. You ask them for the loan. They said, we can't give you the cash because we are not operating charity institution here. Is a profit-making institution. So if you wanted it, we can just give you the asset. We can give to you an asset which is equivalent to what you are requesting. So after agreeing, they will issue the asset to you. So you have a room. You have two options here. Either to take the asset outside the financial institution to sell it and get your money, or you take the money, you take the asset and issue to financial institution and ask the financial institution to become an agent to you. Now you appointed the financial institution to become an agent. So the agent will sell the asset to you and put your money into your account. So in this scenario, tawaruk, for instance, where I think Malaysia and other they operate tawaruk, despite that there are a lot of scholars disagree with this opinion by saying that now is buy bad asset, but it's not this tawaruk. Some of the scholars allowed it and it's being operated under financial institution. But if this thing is spelled out the way I just explained it, there is nothing in it is allowed. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So another question, sir.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Where you made mention that under current account, so when a depositor receive it as a loan, so how does the depositor collect back his money? Is there a specific time, or there is no any specific time for withdrawing his money?
No, a current account is being operated under free. There is nothing addition. There is no profit making. You just open a current account to deposit your money. You doesn't want profit on it, but not like savings account. Savings accounts you operate, you open a savings account in order to have a profit. Did you get the point? But under convention, current account is just like as you are giving your money to financial institution as a loan. As you are giving, please mind my words, as you are giving to financial institution that money as a loan. So the financial institution will take that money and utilize it the way the financial institution wants. So, and you are not expecting whatever they earn it on that money to be remitted to you. No, the money is solidly for them under current account. That's why the current account, you can't see the charges on current account because the money is being deposited in that current account for safekeeping, and you've been given a chance to financial institution to move up and down with the money the way they want it. But any moment you can summon your destiny, you can withdraw your money and the money is available to you. So they can find another means of giving it out your money. But initially, the money deposited is being taken to an investment for their own profit making, as they are keeping the money to you free without charge. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
So there is
any question
one
again?
Yeah, there is another one that is
okay.
Then for you.
Okay.
Then
I'm
for
for
you.
you, Abdullah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead and ask your question, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Thank you. My question is, you made mention of profit in Islam, that Islam makes it we should double the price of commodity when selling, if I get it that way.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat your question? I just got interrupted by a network. Sorry.
You made mention that we should not double the price of items when selling it, and that is the buying price. If I understood it that question, is there any limit to profit making as far
No,
as Islam?
Actually, I just said, if you get me clearly, or if you got me clearly that time, I said, okay, some of the scholars disagree with the idea of doubling the profit on initial capital boot or initial money invested in that product. But some scholars disagree and says there are no limitation in terms of stipulating amount, how much to be put on how much to be earned as a profit. Profit is an open thing. Only that if you feel that there is an exploitation, it means something that if you make it very difficult to people will suffer before they earn it. So something like, for instance, food items and something that is necessary in life to be with. So when you make it more difficult in terms of assessing it, it becomes something new. It becomes something so worrisome. So because of that, some scholars are saying, no, it's not appropriate for you to make profit so huge. Make it little bit easier for people to have access to your product. That one would be very good. But if you decided, for instance, it's not a food items, you decided to make your profit even tripling your own listing, the Islamic distance has no issue with it. Only that the barakah on your own activities will be less compared to those who are making it easier for accessing. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you've answered my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further question?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Sir, so I'm asking on interbank borrowing. You just mentioned the participatory modes of the contract. You just listing the participatory part. What of the? Yes, sir.
Sorry, the network is fluctuating. You are saying
under interbank borrowing.
Yes.
So you just mention the participatory part of the contract. Interbank borrowing, sir.
He's asking about interbank borrowing.
Interbank borrowing.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm asking interbank borrowing, sir.
Yes. So you're asking more about the.
Yes,
more
sir.
More explanation about it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, initially, interbanking borrowing is a kind of borrowing where the financial institutions borrowed from others institutions. For instance, Islamic institutions, we have a central bank. Central bank do give that such window to address the issue of lack of liquidity. Shortage of liquidity. Liquidity, for instance, you can, because all the money is being deposited, is not just keeping in the banking without taking it out for investment. So there is possibility of that financial institution to experience difficulties in terms of liquidity assessment. So if they got themselves in such, it's not that they don't have the money is there, but in investment. If they find themselves in shortage of liquidity, they will seek another financial institution's help to give them money in order to cover the liquidity shortage. So by giving that money to cover the liquidity shortage, they must have another thing to add on the money. It's not just a charity to give it to you. I hope you are getting me.
Yes.
Okay, any other question?
Usman Mahmood.
Okay, Usman Muhammad, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, sir. My question is pertaining this question you have answered now.
Okay.
But sir, CBN will not give you money without collecting interest from you.
Yes, of course.
So here we are talking on Islamic bank, and the interest is illegal to Islamic this thing. So how this Interbrown
will act. Okay, I think I have discussed that case. I discussed that issue by saying that Islamic Bank has developed another way of tackling such. So Islamic Bank developed something like Mudaraba instance and Musharaka commodity and Wakala basis in order to tackle such issue. So we are going to discuss that, like I have said earlier, how Mudaraba and Musharaka commodity will work in order to tackle this issue of labor, interest labor. Did you get it? That's why I said, if you are to borrow in a conventional system, they have something called London interest rate, that is labor. They would impose that labor on you to pay that stipulated amount. But under Islamic financial institution, they are not using that labor per se. Some of the scholars are saying they are using it, but under Islamic financial institution, they are using Murabaha, Musharaka commodity, and Wakala as a basis to tackle such issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I hope I answered yours. Okay. Any other?
Excuse me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Sir, may I know more about this sukuk? I have been hearing about it.
Yes, sukuk is a kind of investment. Despite that, I don't want to talk. Please, can you meet your on sukuk on a issue that we are going to discuss it in details, because the beautifulness or the sweetness of that topic will be swept out. So I decided that let me just give you some background about the sukuk. A sukuk is a kind of investment that the public are interested in investing. So the government is shortage of fund. What government would do to supersede kind of to tackle such is to advertise the sukuk, to give out, to call for sukuk. So people will invest in that, which is in that government initiatives. So who are the people managing the sukuk? They have an SPV, special purpose vehicle, is a center, those that are in charge and also looking all over to gather the money. So the money will be surrendered to government, so the government will carry out a project with it. You know, government has a budget, and the budget has to be delivered by the government as he promised, as government promised. So what will happen is that budget would be suddenly transferred to sukuk. At the moment that government got the money for that budget, it will go to sukuk. I hope you are getting me. So in tranches,
yes, sir.
In tranches, it will be based maybe in tranches to be disbursed to such people, that is investors. So whatever they have it as a profit, it will be distributed to them. That's why now you are seeing in Nigerians roads, there are a lot of sukuk moving all over. So if you may recall previously, the issue of sukuk advertisement has been carried out, and now people invested their money into sukuk, and now the sukuk is doing well so far. I hope I answered your question. You can see how the mood and how Skook operates in our subsequent class.
Yes, sir. Now I get it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Prof, any other question?
No, I don't think so. I think we need to close the session. I think all the questions have been answered.
Okay. So thank you so much. I hope to meet with you guys again in our subsequent class. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you, Prof. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, okay, nice lecture, Dr. Tajani. So that's it. We are just going to close the session. Actually, these days we are having some electricity issue in our country. So because of this, some kind of distortion and some kind of the continuity issues of out there. So I hope that you will. I apologize for this. So I hope it will be fine within within few days. Okay. So that's it.
Thank you, Prof.
So thank you very much. So I'm just going to close the session.
Thank you, participant. Thank you, Salaam.